exploring on this occasion?
Yes, yeah. Um, so I went through a journey in my research over the 8 years. 8 years is a very long time. There's been many changes. But when I started, I think back in 2018, my research was actually focused in around how we use AI in education, either positively, either in teaching, learning, or assessment. But through research, that became a bit of a challenge because it was still quite new. There were not many platforms at that time, but we're starting to see some of the challenges and to envision what was coming. Um, so that led me to, I've always been interested in, I'm not a big fan of exams and essays. So that's why I was exploring AI and sort of technology. So I came to the conclusion that I want to look at the impact of oral and dialogic assessment. So that's the journey I went through. It started with wanting to explore AI in education, and then that led me to dialogic and oral assessment. But as I was going through the study, AI became revolutionary, and it's been used across the world in a positive and negative way. And that sort of made my study relevant and timely because colleagues and academics were facing issues around academic misconduct. The cases went up where students were just copying and pasting from chatbots and using that, claiming that to be their own work. So I would say that sort of motivated me to want to continue the study because academics were looking for an alternative. If there was talks around the essay is dead, exams cause anxiety and stress, and I thought to myself, why don't we ask and use dialogic assessment, professional discussions, vivas, oral assessment, interactive orals to assess learners? It's more authentic because they have the opportunity to demonstrate orally what they understand, how have they developed that knowledge, what's their understanding of that management framework that they've used, where are the gaps in that. And we don't get that opportunity, that back and forth discussion, if we use written assignments as well. So I would say AI has been a positive, influence in my research, and it's quite timely as well. I'm quite excited to share my research around, okay, you're facing this challenge of academic misconduct. Why don't we introduce oral assessment and see what difference it make? And my study, is showing that there's positive results. Learners are able to reflect and go deeper into their learning. The tutor is able to actually understand, the journey that the learner has gone through. I actually enjoy doing a lot more professional discussions and oral assessment as part of my assessment as well. So I would say AI has been a positive influence in my study, and I think it's going to continue. It's quite timely as well, and it's not going anywhere. So I think we are seeing academics moving towards that oral and dialogic assessments. But it's not the solution, the best solution. We still have issues around faculty workload. On a program where you've got hundreds of students, it's not sustainable and effective to apply those methods of professional discussions. But maybe students can sort of record their answers without the tutor present, and maybe that's where AI, I'm starting to see in America, there's a lot of platforms that are sort of being developed by edtech specialists, where they're using AI facilitated assessments, oral assessments, where the AI will facilitate the conversation, but obviously that will bring in issues around ethics as well, which makes it exciting. That could be a future research project there coming. Yeah.
No, we don't want to be American. So, I love your journey. So looking at apprentice schemes, obviously, they're not a new trend. It's nothing new. They've been here for such a long time. And then we've got the traditional route in terms of undergrad, obviously, going a different path. In your opinion, looking at the nation in the UK currently, do you think maybe with the cost of living crisis, obviously the political influences, obviously Labour brought in new ways of working in terms
Mm,
of the education, what will we call it? The education field. They increased the fees, didn't they, previously prior
yes.
to that? And then Labour came in and said, right, colleges can do ABC. You can find a private, companies that can help you with ABC as well. So
Yeah.
obviously now, when we look at the academic space, there are so many variations. And
Mm,
obviously, people have these certificates. Now you throw in another variable, which is now AI. Obviously, it's a
yes.
big pot of a lot of things. So, where's Norma going with this? Cost of living, a lot of people who work, let's say, in traditional roles will go to manufacturing, supply chain, where they didn't need maths and English.
Mm,
Traditionally, now they need it because companies are going global and, M&As is a trend now, right?
yes.
So they're coming in either from China or Europe, the big brands they're acquiring, and they're saying we need maths and English. People are being made redundant. And then other businesses, they're pushing them into apprentice schemes.
Mm.
So, with the AI variable at the back of your mind, do you think apprentice schemes are the way forward for probably 60% of the population? Because if they can go down that route, it's not quicker, but they can balance, the work life education balance because it gives them that permission? Or
Mm.
do you think actually as a nation we need to continue focusing on the traditional route, which is you finish your sixth form, you go to university or college, you go to university? What are your thoughts? Obviously, this is not a
Mm.
part of your research, but I thought I'd ask the question.
It's relevant because it's about apprenticeships, and I've been working in apprenticeships for many years. So I'm
Mm,
a big champion for apprenticeships. The way I see it is, I I think starting off with routes. There's so many opportunities in terms of routes and where we can go. Apprenticeships are the future, and I think traditional degrees and routes have got a purpose. So I think as my advice for a young person is understand what you want to do. If you want to become a doctor or engineer, that sort of field, then the academic traditional route is for you, and you should go for that. But I'm a big advocate for apprenticeships because there are many benefits. When you do an apprenticeship, you're debt free at the end. You've got skills and experience that employers are looking for, and you'll be able to make a difference. I've been working in apprenticeship for a number of years, and what I like to see is when I speak to my apprentices. The other day I went for a tour to for a site visit to visit one of my apprentices on the B2B sales program. They've been with the company for 3 to 5 years, and they've gone through a number of promotions. They started at the lower junior level. Now they're a key account manager within 5 years. They've not even completed their apprenticeship program. They're still in their first year, and they've gone through that journey. And that highlights the importance and relevance of apprenticeships. And going to the political side of things, I believe governments and policymakers should invest more in apprenticeships. There's not many opportunities. One apprenticeship vacancy is getting 500 and 1,000 applicants, and whilst they've only got one position. So then we stakeholders need to create policies and frameworks that encourage businesses to create apprenticeship opportunities. And again, when you're an apprentice, you're in a paid position, so you don't need to worry about the cost of living and bills. You've got that covered, but you're also developing your knowledge, skills, and the way we deliver apprenticeships. It's not just about a lecture standing in front and covering theory. The way I deliver my apprenticeships is we introduce the concepts, the academic frameworks, and learners go back into the workplace and apply that into the workplace. And then they produce assessments and projects and reports to be able to demonstrate, which is what employers are looking for. Employers don't want someone that's only got a certificate in a degree. Jobs are hard to get these days. It's a very challenging and competitive job market at the moment due to a wide range of variables. So the way to differentiate yourself is by doing an apprenticeship, because you're getting that academic knowledge, but you're developing skills and behaviors that are important for the future. So if any politicians are listening out there, invest more in apprenticeships, make it easy for employers to create those opportunities. Apprenticeships have been there for a number of years, but I believe they're the future. We're not quite there yet, where young people are choosing apprenticeship route instead of going to university. But there's a lot of factors that are affecting that trend. Yeah. I don't know if that answered your question there.
No, I think, it's a difficult question to answer, because obviously in terms of what one needs, it's different for everybody, right? Like you
Mm,
said, engineering, this, but I would say engineering, go down an apprentice
yeah.
route,
Mm.
because I think, you can invest, get a property, your life moves really quickly because you're on job, learning, and
Yes.
you crack
Yeah.
on. So you're not really a traditional engineer in that sense, because you're working on what you need to do. So
Mm,
for me, I champion apprentice schemes, even though I'm in academia in that sense, which
yeah.
is funny. Um, so no, I think it's a difficult question to answer in that sense. Now, in terms of your research, then,
Mm.
what were the top three things that you found were limitations in terms of your study?
One of my limitations was I only had 8 participants in total, and that can limit what my claims can be. Secondly, as well, I didn't do any quantitative study to have that balance as well. Even though my third question was sort of leaning towards that quantitative element, because my third research questions was to understand what impact professional discussions had on academic performance. And when we think of academic performance, we start to think of grades and numbers. And I would say that's one area maybe in the future that I want to explore further in terms of addressing that quantitative side of my research as well. Another limitation as well, I managed to get consent to use one of the professional discussion transcript from an apprentice. So the apprentice gave me consent to analyze it, but they didn't give me consent to extract what they were saying and put that into my thesis. So, which was a limitation that I had to address. But they had valid reason, because they were working for a high level government department, and some of the things that they were sharing was quite confidential. So that was the reason why I couldn't extract the transcript and put that into the professional into my research. But that highlights what I want to do as soon as I complete my my studies. I want to do further research in maybe exploring more around the linguistic and the dialogic element of these discussions, and going deep into understanding how people interact, how the tutor and the apprentice interact, which was quite sort of not detailed enough in my studies.
Right. So the top three interesting facts that you found that you didn't think that you would find during this research, what are they?
Do you mean in terms of the actual
Yeah,
findings?
the findings, the top three
Yeah.
that make you smile and you're like, "Do you know what? That one there."
I would say one thing that the apprentice mentioned is the way professional discussions work is usually the tutor facilitate and ask the questions to the apprentice. But what I noticed is apprentices were doing reverse professional discussions, where they were interviewing either the tutor or an expert or a colleague or a senior director, and using that as a learning opportunity, which was quite fascinating, because we understand professional discussion as an assessment method where the tutor will ask the questions. But there was a couple of apprentices in my study that mentioned the reverse professional discussion, which was quite interesting, and I want to explore that further. And that links into reverse mentoring and reverse coaching, that sort of thing. So I would say that that's one thing. Um, Secondly, as well, what was interesting as well is the way apprentices were leading the conversation, and this is where I would like professional discussions to be. It's not the tutor leading the conversation; it's the apprentice facilitating and shaping the direction, and that's where the high level skills would sort of come from as well. And thirdly, in terms of interesting facts that I would say is the apprentices preferred dialogic assessment compared to written evidence and essay. That was interesting for me that they were telling me that, and they said that it gave them the opportunity to explain those misconceptions that they might have written, and that gives us the opportunity to, not to stop using essay and written assignments, but doing a hybrid approach where they'll do the essay, they'll do the written evidence, but also bring in that viva element, that professional discussion element to it, so that they clarify why they did that, why have they got that framework instead of the other as well, which that's what I'm interested in. And just add one more thing as well in terms of AI. Academics are looking for an AI proof assessment, and I don't think we're going to get that. But I see professional discussions as an AI resilient assessment method, which we can use to address those challenges as well.
Quite interesting. But on the reverse one, because so I still work in industry, and
Mm.
what I've realized is there is a particular generation, they do reverse, and managers are often frustrated because they don't seek, they don't trial, they don't want to
Mm.
make mistakes. They want to be told, so they do, but they're not expanding because
Yeah,
that's where the
yeah.
work experience limitations come in. And it's such a frustration because you're thinking, we're paying you 25K or 35K, but yet you're coming to me. I
Yeah,
tell you,
yeah.
you do. If there's a mistake, you then say, boss said it, and
Mm.
then you're out of it. So, in terms of that responsibility and growing as a person, in terms of development within an organization, it becomes, especially in the private sector, because public is different, it becomes such a burden that they start to consider, right, this is a cost. Right. What is the
Yes.
decision that I must make? Because this generation in particular is affecting us. Was that the trend that you picked up to say it's a particular generation, or was it across the board?
I would say it was a particular generation that sort of, yeah, I agree.
Which one then?
Not sure if I should comment on that. But what was interesting is the younger apprentices, sort of initiated this. And it's probably a new trend, a new way of learning. It's not just about the apprentice asking, it's about facilitating and leading that discussion. You have to take ownership of your own learning and development and creating those opportunities. And I think that's a really good example of how they're using professional discussion in a reverse way to learn and actually ask those questions, and then go away and do that reflective piece where you're reflecting on what they've learned, what was that person telling them, and how are they going to apply that into the workplace and development, and which is what degree apprenticeships are about. That is missing in those traditional sort of degrees as well. Yeah.
But I still stand with the managers. I feel like you're lazy. Because you're not going out there, you're not seeking the knowledge, you're not saying, I've watched your YouTube channel, because now they've got cheat sheets, haven't they?
Yes.
To
Yeah.
say, I've
Yeah.
seen that, it worked in the US. You're not coming in with the conversation, you're coming in with, what do I do? And
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I think it's a big struggle anyway in the private sector. I'm just speaking out loud. I'm not saying, I've met someone, just in
Yeah.
case you're my direct line report and you're watching this. Um, so the next question then, looking at equality, diversity, and inclusion, in your opinion, do you think we are where we should be, looking at women in particular, and we've got the LGBTQ community. Do you think we're doing right by people, or we've become a permissive culture that's now confusing workplaces in terms of, all of these little boxes that we have? What are your
Mm.
thoughts?
That's an interesting question. And I think the way I see it is, I love diversity. It's not just about, your own circle. You want to be able to connect and network with different people. And that's where the magic happens. That's where innovation would come into it. We're not quite there yet where there is, equality across the board, but we are sort of working towards that as well. And I would say, look at it. What are the positives of EDI, and that's the starting point, and understanding that and being able to use that at our advantage as well. And I would say it's not about putting people in specific boxes, but it's about understanding us as individuals and how we come together as a collective, and what benefits can we tap into that as well. And I've worked with many people from different countries and backgrounds, and that's where learning and innovation happens. I've had the opportunity to grow up in Africa, Zimbabwe. So I did my sort of youth days in Zimbabwe. I moved to the UK in sort of my early teens, and that sort of gave me a different perspective to life. And through that, going through education and working for different organizations, running my own businesses, it gives me the opportunity to network and learn and collaborate. And where I attend conferences as well, I like to speak to someone I've never spoke to, someone that might not be in my circle or community as well. And that's where the magic happens. And that's what I believe. It's not just about putting people in boxes, but understand each other as individuals. But there's an opportunity to come together, I believe that's where the magic happens. Yeah.
Hmm. So the next question then, in your opinion, do you think higher education breaks the poverty life cycle? Because we have obviously two here in terms of paths with education. We're
Yes.
looking at the apprentice schemes. Um, you know, Traditionally we wouldn't say that's a higher education route, but it
Mm.
is, in my opinion, in terms of professional development in that sense. But you're the expert, so I'll pass this one to you.
That's a very big question, but I like it. Um, the way I see it is education is not the only key or solution to overcoming poverty. The way I see it is a small part, it's a small element. If you just went to university and get a degree, you're not going to be able to change your life. And I was quite lucky. I saw that at a young age. I finished my GCSE, and I went through challenges in terms of not being able to find a job. I handed in more than 40 CVs, no one got back to me. And that led me to think, if I can't find a job, I'm going to create one for myself. I set up my own business. And I believe, that has set me up. And I believe that's what you need. You need the education, finish your education and your studies, go to university and learn and connect and network. But don't just leave it there. Start your own business, even if you're not going to do it for the rest of your life. Start something really small. The good thing about technology now, you can start an online business, which you can run in the evenings, or maybe taking in that gap year, a few years, starting your own business, because that's how you develop those practical skills. Education alone is not enough. It might sound a bit strange coming from an academic, but the way I see it is it's a puzzle. You want to bring all the different elements together, the education side of things, the skills, running your own business, running your own projects, doing volunteering. I used to spend my weekends and evenings doing volunteering when I was a young age, and volunteering in the UK changed my life. I was able to develop my communication skills, networking skills, project management skills, and I was only 16 or on that at that time, and that changed my life. And that's, I didn't get the opportunity to do any work experience because my school didn't offer that, so I had to go out and create it and find that opportunity for myself. So education is important and it can change lives, but it's not enough. You need other elements into it, especially in this day and age. If there are any young people that are listening, my advice for you is don't just rely on one area or just education. Explore yourself, go out there, do something that you've never done before. Even if you're not being paid, it's going to make a difference because these are the things that you can put on your CV. The market is competitive. When you enter the job market, it's competitive. And what makes you stand out is that education, but also, and the projects that you've run, the volunteering that you do, and the small projects that you do, the networking, going to events and connecting. That's what's going to make you stand out from someone that's just got maybe a first class degree in their undergraduate program.
Yeah, I love that guidance. And, going back to the comment maybe that I made previously, where people may think that it's unpalatable for Noma to say it's a particular generation where they ask. I think, upon observation, there is a bit of a disconnect because people do go traveling and they
Mm,
experience different cultures, right? When they come back
yes.
in, they have that understanding. So therefore, it's no longer an exercise of you should conform to me,
Mm, mm,
when they're now
yes.
working and going up the career ladder as well, because they have those experiences, they've been exposed, like you said, in terms of your journey, coming in, you experienced Zimbabwe, then you came here, you're quite proactive. But I think, I'm not saying that the reverse learning is a bad thing, but I
Mm,
feel there's an element of laziness there where people aren't being proactive and going out
mm,
to be goal-getters, because
yes.
as
Yes.
soon as I think the other challenge as well, again, that you're the expert on this one, is that, with private organizations, they are experiencing a lot of that. So they're sending these
Mm,
individuals even to apprentice schemes whereby, the expectation is here,
yeah.
but you get this. Because when we sit down with coaches, and you're listening and you're like, but you didn't apply, you didn't apply
Mm.
yourself. We've given you a day off. There's nothing. And it's the same as well in day to day, because you're thinking maybe if we send you to this apprentice scheme, you'll come back, a new person. But
No.
it's the same challenges, how do organizations then deal, how do they manage that? Because
Mm.
I'm sure you see it a lot,
Yes,
or am
yeah,
I
yeah.
reaching?
No, I see that quite a lot. And what I would say is it's not the young person's fault. It's the way our education system has been created. From
We were taught
school.
we're equal. Stop it.
Let me finish my point and then we'll come back. The way I see it is when we look back at school, they're spoon fed quite a lot and they've just been given answers. You have a teacher that's got maybe 30 or 50 students. There isn't that opportunity to coach them and empower them. And this is why we need to revolutionize our education system. I'm talking about primary and secondary levels, which is the foundation that's really important. If we start there, having a structured approach, is everything is just spoon fed to them. It affects them when they reach that university level or when they reach that professional role. They don't have that opportunity to take ownership, initiate, start projects, lead projects, come out of their comfort zone. And that's how I see it with that specific generation. And I saw that as well. And um, if that led me to be more proactive and to go and look for opportunities. I always believe, if you don't go out there to find the opportunity, it's not going to come to you. You need to go out there and find the opportunity. Do volunteering and do that, and that will empower you to connect and learn from other people. How are other people doing this? And that's how I see it. And I think that is the starting point. And then when you get to the professional environment, they're already ready to take ownership, take initiative, but they haven't got those skills. And that's why I blame the primary and secondary education as well. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that response, but that's how I see it.
No, I think, it, to a certain degree, it's the critical thinking element. That's the variable that's
Mm,
actually missing, because you become proactive if you can sit down and think and evaluate the
yes.
situation. So you are right in terms of spoon feeding, because, that is the problem. How do I
Mm,
then develop my critical thinking skills? if I'm being spoon-fed,
Yes.
is my assessment. So going back to our academics then, do you think it's right that we have this publish or perish culture? What are your thoughts on that in terms of getting a job?
I'm not a big fan of it, and I think it can affect academics negatively. It can cause anxiety and confidence issues. But what I would say is, as academics, we need to share and communicate our work in any way. And I would say, even maybe just starting with a blog. My first publication was a blog on Wonky HE, and through there, I'm able to start a conversation. It doesn't have to be a big publication. Maybe that's a starting point, and then maybe looking at that publishing as well. But it's not just about publishing. There's other things. There's knowledge exchange. You can go and speak at conferences. You can do consultancy work as well. So it's not just about publishing only and perishing. We need to widen that approach. There's teaching and learning and scholarship work that's going around that needs to be communicated. Even becoming sort of like an education influencer and sharing what you're going through on social media. I believe that should be enough, and that should contribute towards promotion as well. But as an academic, I feel like we should be publishing, but look at different routes. It might be a podcast that you do. It might be a publication. It might be a conference paper as well. But I'm not a big fan of that culture as well. It might not be a priority for that academic. Maybe they want to focus more on that teaching and learning element, or maybe they want to improve the assessment element, or maybe they're just a public speaker and they're good at communicating and disseminating their knowledge and experience through that way. So it's not just about publishing, but unfortunately, that's not how our higher education academic world is set up. If you don't publish, you might not get that opportunity to progress in your career, which I'm not a big fan of, and I don't agree with that whole concept of publishing or perish.
Mm. You'll be glad to know that this is the final question.
Okay.
Do you think PhD hard talk is beneficial for the wider community, universities, and also ourselves as, researchers? Or do you think, no, Noma, this is not it? Call it a day. It's not working.
No, I would not say that. Otherwise, I would not be here. What
That's
I would
glad
say is, maybe I'll say it after. No, I think this is a really good platform because it covers quite a number of things. There's different people that would watch it. You might get a professor that's got 30 years experience watching this because they are supervising an undergraduate, postgraduate. So they can learn something from these stories that we're sharing about our challenges and opportunities that we faced on that PhD journey. But also I would encourage, those, undergraduate, early career research, watch this recording. If you don't have a PhD, this is the what you might want to spend your evening. Just find an interview that might interest you and learn from that. I wish this was available back in before I started my PhD, so that I can watch and understand what am I exactly am I signing up to going and to do a PhD as well. And we need that community to be able to share, collaborate, and network. It's a really good platform. If I watch a recording or someone watches my work around professional discussions, I might get the opportunity to be contacted and do collaborative work, networking, maybe working on research. So that's how I see this community. And I would say do not stop. You need to continue, get more people, more diverse people across the world as well to share their knowledge and experience and challenges. It might help someone to make that decision. And it's about painting the true picture of the PhD journey and the challenges that we go through. It's not a smooth journey. I've gone through 8 years. I was supposed to do less than that, but that's my story. That's my journey. But I got to the end. Some people never make it, but I think if someone watches my video and they understand the journey that I've got through, it will help them to make that informed decision if they should go for this or not.
No, I love that. And thank you so much for your time today because a lot of researchers are going through a lot behind closed doors. It's not an easy journey because you're dealing
Mm,
with variables you can't control. Like you
mm,
said, your participants, you had 70, right? Yes, we'll do it. We'll support you.
mm,
The day comes, nobody's responding, right?
yeah.
No one talks about the impact of your mental health,
Mm,
when you have to apply for that extension to say, do you know what I thought was isn't, but you
mm,
know that
mm,
you need that data because otherwise you don't have a
yes.
PhD.
Mm,
And that affects you, but also your support bubble comes in, but they don't relate sometimes if you're the
no.
first person in your family in terms of higher education. So, for you to go through that with a smile and explain that to us, and the audience at home, it's very informative, but also it's reassuring someone who's actually going through that. That's why I asked the
Mm,
question to say, is that the gold standard? How did you get to that? Because that's
mm,
where a lot of corrections come in, and you
yes.
get challenged, but everyone knows that a variable you can't control is a human being because we're very
Mm,
unpredictable, right?
yeah, yeah.
Very.
You can say that again.
So I want to say thank you so much for taking us through your journey, even though I asked about your opinions at certain points, but I enjoyed our discussion, and hopefully we'll be adding more information at the bottom in terms of your businesses for
Mhm.
anyone who wants to get in contact, your research, your publications, everything will be at the bottom. And if you do get in contact and Dr. Blessing doesn't
Yes.
respond back to you, do not be offended, he's booked and busy.
I'm running around the world, speaking at conferences, trying to find that one extra participant for my study. So, yeah, but I will get back to you.
That's the one. So hashtag project dissemination to the world, hashtag
Yes,
sustainable knowledge to the world. And thank you again to Dr. Maregere.
thank you.